In this video, we're going to be revisiting this device here, the Nintendo Switch Lite. I'm going to be hopefully helping you decide whether or not it's worth picking up one of these portable game consoles in 2024, or whether or not you should spend a little bit more and get the Switch OLED, or wait for the up-and-coming Nintendo Switch 2. So in this video, I'm going to be answering all these very important questions about the Switch Lite, so stay tuned. So the Switch Lite was released back in 2019, almost 5 years ago. Fun fact, at the time of filming this video, the Switch Lite will be 5 years old tomorrow. The Switch Lite was designed as a smaller, more portable version of the original Switch. It shared many of its internal specs with the full-size Switch, with its main drawback being that you couldn't dock it to a television. So yes, the Switch Lite is purely a handheld console, unlike the full-size Switch, which is more of a hybrid console. And I assume a lot of people like myself own a Switch Lite because of lockdown. Now, during lockdown, there was a massive shortage of full-size Switches, but there did seem to be less of a shortage of the Switch Lite, so a lot of people like myself wanted the full-size Switch, but ended up getting a Switch Lite, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Whoa, it's Leo from the future. Sorry to interrupt. If you are enjoying, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I had a look at my analytics and it turns out that only 1% of my viewers are actually subscribers. So if you are enjoying, consider subscribing. It really supports the channel. And if you like this video, drop us a like. Let's get on with the video. So we're going to start this Switch Lite video off with an overview of the specs and hardware of this device. So as I've already mentioned, the Switch Lite shares a lot of its specs with the full-size Switch. So that means it comes equipped with the same NVIDIA Tegra processor and 4GB of RAM. So this means that games on the Switch Lite run identically to the regular Switch. And during my testing, I couldn't find any real difference in graphics, frame rate or resolution between the Switch Lite and the regular Switch. Which is very nice to see. The Switch Lite comes with a 5.5-inch 720p LCD touchscreen, which for casual gamers should be fine. It's nothing special, it's not amazing. It's definitely a downgrade compared to the Switch OLED, but we already knew that. So my opinion on the screen, I think 5.5 inches is an appropriate size for this device. It has an LCD display, so the colors, although they look okay, they're not gonna look as vibrant or as contrasty as an OLED screen. So most modern day smartphones will have a nicer looking display than this Switch. But I wouldn't say this display is terrible, it's just nothing special. So the resolution of this display is 720p, which on a 5.5-inch display I think is fine. I have actually noticed, coming from my Switch OLED, which has a 7-inch 720p display, the pixel density on the Switch Lite is actually noticeably better. So it is worth noting that this is only a 60Hz panel, so there's no crazy high 120Hz gaming on this console, but as it is a Switch and it's not super powerful, most games only run at 30 frames per second anyway, so the refresh rate of the display isn't an issue. So in terms of storage, the Switch Lite comes with 32GB of inbuilt storage, which can be expanded using a micro SD card, which you can slot into the bottom of the console. And I know what you're thinking, in 2024, 32GB of storage is not a lot of storage, and I completely agree. Even with the size of Switch games, which tend to be a lot smaller than sort of Xbox, PlayStation games, you're not going to be saving a whole lot of games onto this internal storage, so you are going to need to get a micro SD card pretty much straight away. I found that I was only able to install 3 regular sized games and 1 smaller game on the internal storage. The Switch Lite is powered by a 3570 mAh battery, which is able to power the console for between 3 and 7 hours. It all depends on what sort of games you'll be playing. So here you go, here is the front of the Switch Lite. As you can see, it's almost identical to the regular Switch, but there are a few differences. On the front, there are 2 joysticks, action buttons and a D-pad. The D-pad is one area that differs on the Switch Lite to the regular Switch. So if I take my, my Switch OLED, as you can see, instead of a D-pad, it has directional buttons. So I know that this is down to preference, but I am aware that a D-pad usually is better for fighting games. So that is one advantage to the Switch Lite. Other than the D-pad, I have noticed that the action buttons do feel a bit mushier compared to the standard Switch or the standard Joy-Cons. Don't know if you can hear, but they're slightly more clicky on the regular Switch, whereas on the Switch Lite, it's a bit of a mushier button. Another thing worth noting, I don't know if you can see on camera, but the rubber coating for the joysticks has started to sort of disintegrate, and the joysticks have become very sticky. So yeah, that's something to be aware of if you are planning on buying a used Switch Lite. On the bottom of the console there are two speaker grills, a USB-C used for charging, and there is the micro SD card slot that you can open up and pop a micro SD card in if you want to. On the top of the device there are bumper buttons and trigger buttons. These are identical to standard Joy-Cons. There's also a game card slot, so if you buy physical media you can pop the game cartridge in there. Also a 3.5mm headphone jack, so you can plug headphones in. One thing to note is on release you weren't able to pair Bluetooth headphones with the Switch Lite, but since recent updates you are now able to pair wireless headphones with this console, which is really good to see. Moving along to the left there is a small fan grille. It's hard to believe that this tiny little console actually has a cooling fan, but don't worry, most of the time it's not in use. Moving to the left again, there is a volume rocker and a small power button, and this is what the back of the device looks like. So the Switch Lite's construction is plastic, but don't let that fool you, it's a very well made device. It feels very sturdy in the hand, and there's minimal flexing or creaking in the frame when you try and bend it. I've actually noticed that the construction of the Switch Lite is better, in my opinion, than the more expensive Switch OLED. One thing I have noticed with the Switch OLED or any regular Switch with detachable Joy-Cons is that there is sometimes a bit of sort of wobble between the body and the Joy-Cons, which makes this device feel less sturdy than this device. In terms of colours, there are 5 main colours of Switch Lite. Obviously there's the yellow one that I have here. There's also a teal colour, a grey colour, a pink colour and a dark blue colour, as well as all the limited edition designs that Nintendo have decided to release. Like a lot of other Nintendo devices, the price of the Switch Lite hasn't really fallen. It's still £199 on the Nintendo website, which is how much it was on day one. But on the used market you can find these from anywhere from £100 to £150 depending on the condition. But I do want to say that the price of the console isn't the full story. You'll most likely be paying full price for games because Nintendo rarely discount their games. So I'm glad to report that most games on the Nintendo Switch run really well, especially first party games. There are a lot of really enjoyable first party games including Mario, Animal Crossing, Zelda. These are all games that are exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, so you would expect them to run really well. One game that I've been enjoying in particular over the last week is Mario Odyssey. This is a very popular 3D platforming Mario game that runs really well on the Nintendo Switch. It actually runs at 60 frames per second on this Switch Lite, so that's impressive. There are also third-party games that run on the Switch. A lot of them do run really well, but there are some more ambitious titles that do tend to struggle on the Switch, and the Switch wouldn't be my preferred console for playing these games. An example of that is The Witcher 3, which a couple of years ago was ported to the Switch. Unfortunately on the Switch this game runs at a very low resolution and barely hits 30 frames per second, so this is definitely not the ideal way to play The Witcher 3. I would definitely look at something like a Steam Deck if you are sort of hoping to play these AAA titles. So I'd like to quickly touch on the social aspect of the Nintendo Switch. So with the regular Switch you're able to detach the Joy-Cons and play local multiplayer on a lot of games such as Mario Kart, or even a game like this, like Mario Party. It's a very social console, but when it comes to the Switch Lite, obviously you can't do all that. You can't detach the Joy-Cons and you can't dock it to a TV. So the Switch Lite definitely isn't as much of a social console as the standard Switch. But I do want to say that you can actually pair Joy-Cons to the Switch Lite, but it's not an ideal situation. I'd probably, if you think you're going to be playing multiplayer or local multiplayer, then I'd definitely advise saving up a little bit more and going with regular Switch. So in conclusion, should you pick up a Nintendo Switch Lite in 2024, or save your money and wait for a Switch 2 to come out, or buy the regular Switch? So in my opinion, even in 2024, almost 5 years after the initial release of the Switch Lite, I still think this is a great console. Obviously this console is showing its age in certain areas, as in it's not the most powerful console, it doesn't have the highest resolution screen, the battery isn't the largest, but I still think that this is a great value console in 2024. So the Switch Lite is going to set you back £100 less than the Switch OLED, and for that money you're getting a full games console that can run full Nintendo Switch games. It even has the ability to accept physical media, which is something that's quite rare in 2024. So the Switch Lite is for someone that enjoys Nintendo games, maybe someone that's currently playing on Nintendo DS but wants to upgrade. It's also for someone that's not too bothered about connecting their Switch to the TV and playing local multiplayer. It's aimed at someone that wants a comfortable, lightweight, portable Nintendo Switch with a good battery life that they're able to shove in their pocket and play Animal Crossing on the go, or Mario Odyssey, or whatever you want to play. So I definitely would recommend this to the right individual. So if the Switch Lite sounds like something that would interest you, I'd say go for it. I wouldn't bother waiting for the Switch 2 because that's probably going to be a full-size Switch. They're most likely not going to release a Switch Lite 2 straight away. So I still think this has got a lot of life left in it, and I definitely would recommend it if it interests you. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. If you have enjoyed, drop us a subscribe, drop us a like, and I'll see everyone in my next video.